So there's an old Tom Jones song that's been stuck in my head these past weeks. Some of you might know it. I won't try to sing it. But the words are, "Try to remember when life was so tender that no one wept except the willow. Try to remember when life was so tender that dreams were kept beside your pillow. Try to remember, and if you remember, then follow." This song speaks to the past as a simpler time, a better time, one that we should, of course, remember with nostalgia and longing. And I've been thinking about this song because this is a time of year when we pause to examine our lives. Naturally, we too find ourselves nostalgic, holding on to or yearning for a version of our past selves. And especially now, especially after a year that feels heavy with violence, pain, and fear, I think the lyrics of this song pluck at our heartstrings a little bit more. Can we go back to a better time? Of course, we know that we can't. And even if we were able to, it would not live up to the idealized version that our memories have created. This is the meaning of the word nostalgia, derived from the Greek words meaning pain and coming home. Nostalgia is the painful yearning to return to a time of comfort that is no longer, or perhaps never even existed. We see this with our ancestors in the wilderness, having been liberated from slavery as they journeyed through the desert to the promised land. Indeed, on more than one occasion, the Israelites are so overcome with nostalgia for their lives in Egypt that they ask Moses to go back, seemingly forgetting that when they were there, they were an oppressed and enslaved people. Nostalgia often distorts the events of the past in our mind, making things seem better than they actually were. This idea was beautifully illustrated by Rabbi David Wolpe, Rabbi Emeritus of Temple Sinai in Los Angeles, no relation, who was asked to speak about the staggering levels of anti-Semitism last year. In response, he explained that whenever he is feeling despair about the world we live in today, he imagines himself in conversation with his great-great-grandfather. He says, "I say to him, you know, there's some anti-Semitism at Harvard." And he responds to me in shock, "There's Jews at Harvard?" And I say to him, "Yes, but some of them hate Israel." And he says, again, utter surprise, "There's an Israel?" Our yearning for our past can often cloud the reality of what it was actually like. And Rabbi Wolpe's story is a reminder for all of us that the world is better for Jews today than it was 100 years ago. And so he posits that in 100 years it will be better still. When tempted by a nostalgia of an imagined rosy past, Wolpe ends up sharing with us an imagined future filled with hope. While it is tempting to try to remember a more tender life, we know that it is impossible to go back by longing for what was. We are unwilling to imagine that there is a better world waiting to be created by us. Rather than live our lives driven by nostalgia, yearning for what was, we must be a people who are motivated by hope, a yearning for what is yet to be. Yom Kippur reminds us of this. We have one life, and we must live it not for the past, but for the future. And our liturgy teaches this as well. For the past several weeks in preparation for tonight, and just a few moments ago, the cantor sang so beautifully in the words Shema Kolenu. We hear the words Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem, which is often translated as renew our days as they were before. However, this phrase in Hebrew has an ambiguous meaning because, as in English, the word before can refer to the past, as in what happened before now, and also to the future, as in what lies before us. When we pray to renew our days kekedem, while we may think it is a plea to return our lives back to the way they used to be, the language instead calls us into the future. Tonight, as we pray to be inscribed for blessing in the book of life, we do not seek to make our days like the ones before, but to renew, or rather to make new the days that lie ahead. Rather than living through nostalgia, yearning for what was, tonight we live with hope, yearning for what is still possible. Contemporary historian Yirmiyahu Yovel describes the difference between nostalgia and hope this way. He says, nostalgia does not bear the seeds of change. It only indulges the sadness arising from the knowledge that its object can no longer be retrieved, whereas hope looks forward to a different reality. It longs for a new real time, however distant, when that dream might be actualized. When we find ourselves living through difficult moments in our lives, we can either reach back in sadness, longing for what is gone, or we can reach forward in hope. We can work toward making a better world possible. Our ancestors understood this, and there is a story in the Talmud about one of them, Rabbi Akiva. One day, Rabbi Akiva is walking out with his friends when they walk past the site of the destroyed temple. This holy place, which was once bustling with people and rituals, is now an abandoned pile of ruins. As they approach the site, they spot a wild fox in the very place that the Holy of Holies used to be. Such a state of affairs brings all of Rabbi Akiva's friends to tears. But Rabbi Akiva instead smiles and starts to chuckle. His friends say, Rabbi Akiva, this site was so holy, and now it is merely a shelter for wild animals. How can you not weep? Do you not also wish that we can return to what was? And Rabbi Akiva, still smiling, says, our tradition teaches a prophecy that one day the Temple Mount would be as the high places of the forest. And look, here we are with the animals of the forest. Because we saw that wild fox, I have hope that the other prophecies of our tradition, which promise peace and a better world, will come true soon as well. It is widely accepted that Rabbi Akiva and his friends were living through one of the darkest periods of time for the Jewish people. The destruction of the temple also destroyed their entire way of life. This story takes place on the rubble of the lives that they once knew. And yet, while Rabbi Akiva's friends weep, longing for the past, Rabbi Akiva instead sees the fox as a sign of hope. Contemporary scholar Miriam Zami writes that Rabbi Akiva's laughter is, quote, a radical reframing of this catastrophic moment of helplessness and vulnerability. She continues, through his laughter, Rabbi Akiva resists the notion that the only future is a bleak one. His laughter is a symbol to his colleagues of the enduring faith in God and humanity. Rabbi Akiva laughs not because he is unmoved by the temple's ruins. Indeed, he understands the significance of this tragedy, but he also understands that he cannot change the past, and yearning for what was will not motivate him to work toward building a new world. Rather than nostalgia, Akiva chooses hope, believing that another world is possible and that it is his responsibility to make it so. Yom Kippur urges us away from nostalgia and demands honesty and accountability. Through our vidui, our personal and communal confessional, we stand up and acknowledge our words and deeds. We are told to confront our past rather than attempt to relive it and to make the changes we need in order to create a better future. Our process of teshuvah, of returning and repenting, is not an act of nostalgia, but instead one of hope, one that says the damage we have caused to ourselves, to our loved ones, to this country, to this planet, are still reparable if we hurry. Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem, these words have an urgency to them. The verb chadesh, to renew or to create, is in the imperative. And indeed, there is an urgency, the liturgy tells us. The time for us to act is now. Now is not the time to long for the past, but to long for a future we have never seen and a world made new by us. Now is the time for hope, which leads to action. That is how we renew our days. So here are some of my hopes. In the age of a loneliness epidemic, I have hope that our synagogue can be a place where people feel seen and loved. In a world of constant distraction, I have hope that we can make space for quiet, for focus, for presence. At a time when Jews in America and across the world are once more being attacked in the street, I have hope that the work we do every day to combat anti-Semitism will result in future generations of proud Jews. In a world of cruelty and violence, I have hope that I can be a role model of kindness and compassion to my children and my students. At a time when our planet is in crisis, I have hope that it is not too late for us to act, to repair, to heal. In a time of war, where hostages remain in captivity and innocents in Israel and Gaza suffer, where people live in the shadow of grief and fear every day, I have hope that Israel will emerge as a beacon of democracy, of strength, and compassion in equal parts. And finally, I have hope that just like Rabbi Wolpe's great-great-grandfather, I too will have a conversation with my great-great-granddaughter someday, where she will describe a world of peace and joy and wonder that is beyond my wildest dream, and that was only made possible by all of our audacious acts of hope. Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. May our hope drive us forward into the future, creating better days ahead, and may we be inscribed for blessing in the book of life. Gamar Chatima Tova.